The Hunter region now produces 30% of Australia's aluminium, and this will rise further if Tomago proceeds with its expansion plans. Chemplex Australia says its proposed aluminium fluoride plant will provide the local industry and beyond with a ready source of raw materials. The development will be built on the site of the existing Chemplex plant on Kooragang Island. There'll be 52 new jobs, although 30 were lost when the original plant closed down last March. In these ozone-friendly days, the old Chemplex plant, which was used to manufacture materials for chlorofluorocarbons, has become somewhat of a dinosaur. This will all be demolished to make way for the new venture, which should be on stream mid-1993.
We selected Newcastle as the site for our aluminium fluoride plant because it's the area in Australia where most of the aluminium is produced.
An essential material in the aluminium production process, aluminium fluoride is now totally imported by Australian smelters. Chemplex says its Newcastle plant will turn around the nation's import-export balance by more than $50 million per year. Of course, chemical companies tread carefully in the 1990s. The production of aluminium fluoride releases both water and fluoride emissions, but the company says these will be well below state pollution control regulations.
With the growing awareness that the community has now on manufacturing, we have been very, very careful and thorough in ensuring that the plant which we are designing will meet the environmental requirements of today.
Chemplex is now preparing an environmental impact statement which will go on public display next year. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
The Cardiff and Broadmeadow workshops both made headlines earlier this year by polluting nearby waterways. Now it's their future that's looking murky. Plans to lease locomotives from the private sector could see the maintenance centres shut down.
It would mean the closure of Broadmeadow Locomotive Depot and the Cardiff Maintenance Centre. It would mean that running depots such as Werris Creek and Grafton, Yeronga would also be in jeopardy.
How many jobs are we talking about there?
At least 700 in the northern region.
Unions say the plans make a mockery of their restructuring efforts.
If the SRA was serious in wanting structural efficiency within the railway, then they're doing their damnedest to prevent us from proceeding.
Tenders will be called early next year, with a decision expected several months later. The SRA says it will only close the workshops if it can be proved private enterprise can do the job more efficiently. It says it will try to relocate as many workers as possible and offer those it can't early retirement or voluntary redundancy packages. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News. Normally a popular swimming and surfing beach, Catherine Hill Bay was all but deserted today. Even beach inspector Peter Yeager was staying dry. But after a horrifying experience on his surf ski last week, few could blame him.
On my way back from the north end, come across this large shark in front of me.
Any idea at that stage exactly what it was?
No, I didn't get close enough to find out what type of shark it was, but I was 50 metres away from it and it was quite a large shark.
It's thought the shark was one of these, a white pointer or great white shark, the most fearsome creature on the planet. Game fisherman Bob Minter made a positive identification on Saturday.
I've never, ever doubted what it was. It is definitely a white.
And how big would you estimate?
On his first approach to the boat, I called him around about 650 kilo on about 17 feet. When he came in and had a crack at the boat, probably 800 kilo and 18 feet. He's a big fish.
Workers on the Catherine Hill Bay coal loader say sightings have been common.
All the boys on the jetty seen it, on and off during the day for a period of a couple of hours, then the following day, and even as late as last Saturday Steve seen it when the ship was coming in.
Crewmen aboard the collier Wallara say they saw the shark's dorsal fin near the end of the jetty as late as yesterday. Lake Macquarie Council has put up signs to warn the public, but those who have come face to face with the monster need no warning.
Just the sheer fright and the shock of seeing such a humongous animal here in our own waters so close to shore, it was unbelievable.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
It is 1 year to the day since Janelle Bryant and Melissa Gay left Newcastle for a Christmas holiday. They and 33 others died 16 days later in the Kempsey bus disaster. A special memorial shield was given to Glendale High to recognise achievement in those sports that Janelle had excelled in. Today, Janelle's friends presented that shield to Year 10 pupil Sarah Pollack.
It's a good way to remember the girls for what they did for the school and everything, and it's a good way to encourage sporting people to try harder.
Then 2 plaques were unveiled in front of the trees planted earlier this year in memory of Janelle and Melissa.
The Shepherd's Hill cottage is 100 years old, and it shows. Time has more than taken its toll, and those who remember the complex from its military heyday have no doubt who is to blame.
Partly the elements, but council haven't done as much as they could have done to repair the damage done by the elements.
Tony Steinbeck has lived in the cottage for almost 3 years. An amateur historian, he's spent thousands of dollars on maps depicting the original layout of the fort and much of his spare time clearing what was a badly overgrown piece of land. He has refused to heed council eviction notices, vowing instead to fight to preserve the area's historical value.
It'll be retained as it was if I stay, as the cottage won't be commercialised. And hopefully at a later date the tunnels will be open. Now if somebody else moves in, I very much doubt they'll take on both projects.
Both men have called on the council to spend the money necessary to restore the cottage, but it seems determined to push ahead with plans to lease the site to a suitable commercial venture.
"144 would-be professionals attacked the testing layout of the Stockton course, but soon found out that it's not easy to post a good score on these 18 holes. Local lad Peter Johnston found the going tough, although he made a fine birdie at the par 4 15th. Former touring professional Mark Officer fell off the pace and struggled to gain composure all day in the trying heat. Tony Mills was prodigious off the tee, and after a 72 yesterday, could have been right up with the leaders today if a half a dozen birdie attempts had fallen his way. As it was, he shot 73 and is only 3 strokes off the tournament lead. Clark Joyce from Sanctuary Cove returned to 1 under 71 to trail by 2, and there's a big challenge from another local lad, David Van Rout of the Murray Club at Raymond Terrace. Today, Van Rout carded a 72 to go with his first round 71, and he trails by a single shot. With him on 143 is Anthony Summers of New South Wales, who shot an identical score to Van Rout. And they are chasing David Wolfe of New South Wales. Wolfe was the star today, returning a 4 under par 68 to lead the tournament by a shot. For some, it was their last round in the $30,000 event, as the field has been restricted to 66 after today's cut, which came at 155. Play in the third round begins tomorrow morning at 8:30.
The Polar Sea is the United States' biggest icebreaker and possibly the world's most capable. Its brightly coloured hull allows it to be seen in the white expanses of Antarctica.
Near the coast in Antarctica, the sea ice extends maybe up to 20 miles offshore, which creates sort of an impenetrable boundary for any ships trying to get in to resupply the stations down there, and they can only be resupplied once a year. So we go down there and with a heavy ice breaking capability can break open a channel in the ice so that the ships can get in and resupply the bases.
The ship also carries out its own research, providing a base for American scientists.
On this trip we will be doing meteorological work, we'll be doing oceanographic work and some deep sea sedimentation geology work.
The effectiveness of the ship lies in its specially designed hull, which can crush ice more than 7 metres thick.
The ship is designed to break through 21 feet of new hard ice, and we have done that on a number of occasions. My personal experience on this ship is several years ago in the Arctic. We broke through a 67-foot thick pressure ridge in the Arctic. It took us several attempts, but we got through it.
Because of the modern equipment on board, a relatively small crew of 150 is needed to operate the vessel. The ship will spend 2 months in Antarctica, entering the Antarctic Circle on Christmas Day. But while in Newcastle, the crew is anxious to see the area and meet the locals. To make introductions easier, a dial-a-sailor line has been set up on 262957.
It's a telephone line directly into the ship where families and individuals can call the ship and make arrangements to take our sailors out to dinner or take them to their homes or take them to the beach or generally show them Australia.
The sound of sleigh bells would have been drowned out by the roar of hundreds of motorcycles taking part in this 12th annual toy run. Bike riders of all persuasions assembled at Mick Middleton Field, ignoring the sweltering morning heat, and all carried teddy bears or other toys for the Salvation Army's Christmas gift appeal. With Santa at the head of the pack, the bikers set out in an orderly but eye-catching motorcade along the Pacific Highway towards the Newcastle foreshore. At the park, it was time to formally present their donations, which quickly formed an impressive mountain of gifts. The presents will add Christmas joy to the lives of about 1,500 children when they're distributed in hampers to 500 families in the Hunter region.
By late this afternoon, the fire had destroyed around 100 hectares of bush at the back of Windermere Park, but the situation could have been far worse, with firefighters forced to backburn within metres of houses. Although brigades were able to prevent any property loss, residents had to dampen fences and keep a constant eye on the dry scrub as the wind constantly changed direction.
The weather conditions aren't in our favour. We're getting fairly high temperatures and low humidity at this stage, and there is a possibility the fire may occur on the adjoining land. There are sparks going across in the unburnt area at this stage.
Fishery Point Road had to be closed twice to traffic as smoke hindered visibility.
We had a wall of flame hit one road at one stage as the fire came through, and it was extremely dangerous.
Firefighters believe the blaze was deliberately lit sometime this morning.
The pressure was right on from the start, with Russia taking an early lead after 4 heats. Then a mistake by Cessnock's Chris Watson created some anxious moments. New South Wales opened up a gap with a couple of 5-1 heats, but the Russians fought back to close the gap with one heat remaining, and both camps threw in their best riders. With Todd Wilshere and Craig Boyce up for New South Wales, it was never in doubt. The Bradley report was commissioned to take a cold and calculated look at soccer in Australia, which according to many was on a self-destruct mission. Dr Bradley recommended that Newcastle be one of 17 teams in the NSL representing soccer in the north of New South Wales. BHP Austral have convinced the power brokers that they have the resources and the necessary ground improvements underway to satisfy any entry qualifications. Now that the report has been accepted, soccer on a national basis in Newcastle should only be 12 months away.
We're hoping it'll be 1991. We're currently waiting on the approval from the Department of Sport and Rec for the grandstand. John Constantine here, as you know, was here in Newcastle in October, and we've got everything with the exception of the grandstand, so we're pretty confident we'll be there for October 1991.
Along with the ground improvements already underway and the prospect that the grandstand funds will be approved next Friday, 500 trees are to be planted to beautify Austral Park. One important aspect of BHP Austral being the team to carry the city's colours is that they will be representing Newcastle, not just Austral.
I think Newcastle deserves to be there. The hard-working people, and they always love the game and they try to build it as much as possible, and I think the opportunity is here now and we've got to make sure that we're there and stay there.
With success in the SG Ball Under-17 competition this year, it's no wonder enthusiasm is sky high throughout the junior ranks of the Newcastle Knights. Players are vying for spots in this year's Harold Matthews, SG Ball and Jersey Flegg teams, and ultimately the Winfield Cup. This third camp, conducted by David Waite and his diligent staff, is about results for the future and is also as much a learning curve for the coaches as the players.
Like any other project, I suppose you get better and better at it, but the way that we now link through our coaches in the district clubs and the junior clubs, they're guest coaches here, and with Keithy Onslow's level 2 fellows, 27 of them here yesterday, half from Newcastle, half from the Central Coast. The message of rugby league is spreading far and wide.
Ask Wade about the ability of the youngsters and he could talk for hours.
That's outstanding, absolutely outstanding. You wouldn't think that you could continue to come up with the sorts of players that we had in our SG Ball side last year.
Another aspect of the Knights development scheme has instigated this year is a seminar on drugs. The New South Wales Rugby League have caused some consternation by suggesting that under-17 and under-19 teams be drug tested. To help alleviate a potential problem, Roger Peters takes the players through a series of questions.
Firstly, we have to find out what they know about drugs, go away from this camp, then set up a program to say we need to be educated about them and know that the real negatives about all sorts of drugs. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about the alcohol or the illegal substances. So it's an awareness program, hopefully with the education when they have to make that decision, when the temptation's there, they'll make the right decision, which will keep them on the road to success in the sport that they've chosen.
Drivers pulling into Hexham's truck port today found an unusual reception awaiting them. Operation Have a Chat was in full swing, a chance for truckies to meet police on a friendly basis. Highway cops swapped their sirens for sizzling sausages in the first operation of its sort in the state to try and improve traditionally strained relationships. It follows on from October's 3-day road patrol, Operation Friendly. And it was so successful today that the informal get-togethers might spread.
I think so, and I hope so, because those barriers between the police and the truckies have got to be lowered, and we've got to start communicating between each other and work together.
The truckies found it a good way to get a heavy load off their minds.
It'll help
the barrier between the police and the truckies themselves. It wasn't what I say. They're all quite friendly and all that sort of thing, but like you say, if you break the law, you break the law, and they're out to do a job just like us.
I think it's a good thing. I think there should be more of it. We're both out there trying to do a job. Unfortunately, the jobs clash with each other occasionally, but the more that we understand them and they understand us, I think the better off we're all going to be.
What has come out so far is the way they've been spoken to and the way they've been treated. They've got to be treated as an equal.
Part of normally busy Hunter Street was blocked off to traffic, giving shoppers a chance to browse in comfort. Christmas gifts were in big demand, followed by a cool drink to beat the midday heat. Newcastle Motor Club's racing cars proved a popular attraction, and so did Santa. But even the music of the Dixieland 5 Jazz Band was not enough to keep one little one awake. Meanwhile, music of a different sort spread Christmas cheer through Newcastle City Hall. The NBN Choir and the Hunter Consort Choirs made sure everyone was in the festive spirit.